Welcome back, everyone. I'm going to talk about the details for two competitions happening this week. The first competition is the one that we've been having basically every single week, the one that happens inside of Common Ground World in the events tab and rewards Gala to the top 1,200 placements in the leaderboard. That competition will begin on June 25th, 2024 and will feature the Kimchi meta, a new item that's been added to the game and is part of the fishing production chain, I would say, since you do have to craft shrimp. Here are the craft requirements for Kimchi on the screen right now. And then after that, I'm going to talk about the details for the other competition happening on June 24th, 2024, which is going to be the first decoration competition we will be having. This has been talked about in the past, and this decoration competition will feature an NFT reward to 10 players based on who has the most votes, and I am going to get into all of the details of that in the video. And after I go over all those details, I do have a build showcase prepared to give you an idea on how to make a competitive design for this Kimchi meta competition. As always, you can find all the official details in the Common Ground World announcements channel in the Gala Games Discord, and there's an invite link to the Gala Games Discord in the description of the video. So the Kimchi meta competition will begin on June 25th, 2024 and end 3 days later. Of course, meta is to sell kimchi. Trade time is 20 seconds, 1 gasoline per trade. Biome is a desert biome facing the north, and the biome edges are an ocean on the east and south sides and a river on the west side. The north side is just another desert. So this is what the starting biome looks like. You do have an oil seep close to the center of the map. You start off with a few salt fields and a couple of ponds. I believe one of the salt fields only has 2 passive water, which is kind of useless. And you do start off with a windmill, so you could start making salt with this setup. And you also start off with a couple tree farms and the lumberjack. So yeah, you have everything you need here to make salt. And the cash boost for this competition are salt getting boosted from 2,250 to 5,000 for each one that you sell, and fish sauce will get a cash boost from 8,600 to 21,000. So I've said this before in other competitions that had salt as a cash boost. I don't really recommend you do salt to get all the cash you need. You could, it is a viable option, but at some point you are not going to be able to scale up salt production any further because you're going to run out of space to have more green timer windmills. I would suggest doing Gold Rush because that's easier to scale up and you'll be able to earn more cash per hour doing gold instead of doing salt. As for fish sauce, it's not really worth selling this for cash because it takes a lot of steps to get to the point where you can make a lot of fish sauce. You're going to have to make a lot of sauce facilities, which are really expensive, and also the craft time for fish sauce is really high, and you are going to need a seafood warehouse in order to store the shrimp, which is required for fish sauce. So it really doesn't make sense to get to that point just to sell that to earn money. It's more like something you can sell on the side if you need money while you're selling kimchi, but that should not be the case, and it's still a bad idea to do that. So kimchi's craft requirements are 4 lettuce heads, 1 fish sauce, 1 sugar, 1 rice vinegar, and 2 seaweed, as I showed in game. It's made in the Korean restaurant, which is a new building, and it is stored in the storehouse. The craft time for kimchi is 2 minutes, and the fish sauce is crafted in the sauce facility, requires 1 water, 2 salt, and 2 shrimp, and it has a craft time of 6 minutes, which is very high. So you can only make a few of these fish sauce per sauce facility, so you are going to need a lot of sauce facilities for a good enough rate for kimchi. The rewards for this competition are the standard Gala rewards for reaching the top 1,200 placements in the leaderboard. They do have the official prize information on the Discord, but I also have a table I created on the Townstar playbook with all the information for the competition prizes. Now I'm going to talk about that other competition happening, which is the decoration competition, and that begins on June 24, 2024. They shared the details on this on X, formerly known as Twitter. So here's the information. Kicks off on June 24th and it's gonna end on July 1st, but you only have until June 27th to submit an entry. So really you only have, I believe, 3 full days to submit an entry. And then on June 28th is when they're going to start the process of voting. So there's going to be 3 full days to vote on who you think should be the winner. So here are the rules. Use as many in-game decorations to decorate your town, experiment with different layouts, and most importantly, get creative. Take a screenshot of your decorated town and then post it to a special Discord channel as your submission. This is not required, but nice to have. Feel free to share the screenshot of your town on X and tag us, but yeah, that's not a requirement. So you have until June 27th to submit that entry, and whenever they do the voting process, you have to vote with the red circle emoji on the decorated towns you like the most. That counts as a vote. Winners and prizes. So the top 10 decorated towns that receive the most votes will receive a glass factory as a prize, which is a pretty good NFT. That glass factory they're referring to is this one right here. Its regular price is $250, and this is a glass factory that you can place anywhere. It doesn't require a road, doesn't cast any shade, doesn't cast any dirty. 35% reduced craft time than the normal glass factory, and the worker has less wages and the worker moves faster. So it is a pretty good NFT, not one that you use in every single competition, but it's nice to have. I think it will be a good prize for the 10 winners of this decoration competition. I'm going to share my thoughts about what I think about this decoration competition. I think it's a cool idea, and it is an idea that was mentioned many months ago, and I believe this is the first time it is going to be happening. The problem is that the winners are based on the most votes from the community, and this is pretty easy to rig. Basically, all you have to do is submit anything you want and get your guild members or your friends or people you know to vote for your submission, since that's basically all that's required. Just the top 10 most voted submissions are going to be the winners after all. So just keep that in mind. It's more about how many people can you get to vote for you than it is how cool of a design you can make. Now, of course, the people who are actually going to be legit and vote for the designs they actually like are going to vote for the cool looking ones that they like to look at, I guess. So if you are going to participate in this and you want to try to win, you should still make something that looks cool. But yeah, it's going to be based on the most community votes. Now it's time to take a look at the no NFT required Kimchi design that I created. So this Kimchi build is doing 100 Kimchi per hour exactly. You can see it right there. Production monitor doesn't lie. It's been running for about 19 hours, so this is a stable rate. And the build is very balanced. I am gonna scroll through the production monitor and then point out the most relevant crafts for Kimchi. So you can see right here, lettuce heads. This is making 431 lettuce heads per hour. That would be enough lettuce heads to potentially make close to 108 Kimchi per hour. So it is overproducing lettuce heads. Then you have fish sauce at 100 per hour. So that is spot on. Sugar is at 103 per hour, so there's enough sugar there for 103 kimchi per hour. Rice vinegar is at 104 per hour, and seaweed's at 660 per hour, so 231 shrimp is being made, so that leaves 200 seaweed to spare. So all of the spare seaweed gets used to make kimchi. So as you can see, it's very, very well balanced. Shrimp and lettuce heads are being overproduced, but there is room to improve this even further based on those production rates. I'm going to begin by explaining salt and sugar production. Both require wood in order to craft. So I have 4 logger houses and a total of 10 tree farms. Those are the only crafts that require wood in Kimchi, so not that many tree farms are required for this. Then I also have 10 farm tractors in charge of harvesting all the crops. For salt and sugar, I need salt fields, so I have 10 salt fields, all of which have at least 3 passive salties, so they're able to craft brine on a green craft timer. And I have 4 sugarcane fields on the north side over here, all of which have the 4 passive water that they need. And I have a total of 7 windmills on a green craft timer. There are no windmills in this build that have a red craft timer. All of them have a green craft timer. So the 5 on the south side over here are crafting salt, and the 2 on the northeast side are crafting sugar. None of them are being affected by shade. That's how they are holding the green craft timer, which allows them to craft salt and sugar at the fastest craft time possible. There are 3 silos for storage, you can see right here, and there are 3 storehouses to deposit the salt and sugar and other items into. Next is rice vinegar. I have 4 rice fields. I have 2 mixing tents next to this silo right here, both of which have the 1 passive energy that they need to craft white rice. And I have 2 sauce facilities over here crafting rice vinegar, both of which have the 2 passive water that they need. They just have to pick up white rice and sugarcane. For seaweed and shrimp, I have 3 seaweed farmers on the northeast corner. I am utilizing the subgrid placement for this. So both of these seaweed farmer houses are actually casting half a shade on the windmills, but this still allows the windmills to craft sugar on the fastest craft timer, because 0.5 shade just rounds down to 0 shade. So it's as if there's nothing negatively impacting these windmills. Now, if I were to have the seaweed farmer right next to the windmill, then it would have 1 shade, because these are both casting 1 shade, but they're half a space away, so the half shade won't actually reduce the craft time because it's getting rounded down to the closest even number. I don't usually utilize subgrid placement on my build showcases. I do think it is more of an advanced technique, but I did decide to do that there to further optimize this design. So the seaweed farmers will pick up seaweed from the seaweed farms. I have 4 seaweed farms here. They are positively impacted by salty. 3 of them are crafting seaweed on the green craft timer. This one only has 2 salty, so it is crafting seaweed slightly slower, but it does help with the production rate. They are going to take seaweed to the closest silo, which is right here, and that seaweed gets picked up by the 2 aquaculturists that I have over here on the north side. If they pick up seaweed and take it to the 3 shrimp farms right here, which are all on the green craft timer. They're not being impacted negatively by any dirty. The dirty only reaches up to these spots right here. And I have 1 seafood warehouse to store the shrimp into. The seafood warehouse, just to mention, I mention this all the time, but it requires ice blocks. In order to craft ice blocks, you do need to either craft them at the water facility or at a master wizard, and you do need to have passive cold. Passive cold can be gotten from either the Santa's factory. This building gives 2 passive cold to anything next to it, up to 2 passive cold. And the other building is the wizard's workshop, which gives you 1 passive cold to any building next to it. I do have a dedicated video talking about how to craft ice blocks. I will leave a link to that in the description. And now for fish sauce and kimchi. So as you can see, kimchi's craft requirements right here also requires lettuce heads. I have a total of 52 lettuce fields. They have a really high craft time and they all require at least 7 passive water. And a general rule that I've noticed is that 1 lettuce field will give you about 8 lettuce heads, which is enough for 2 kimchi. So the 52 lettuce fields that I have will give me enough lettuce heads for at least 104 kimchi. I showed the production rate earlier, but it's actually giving me close to enough for 108 kimchi. But you will get, or you should get, at least 8 lettuce heads per lettuce field in case you're trying to balance out your lettuce head production rates. And then I have 12 sauce facilities, not these 2, these 2 are making rice vinegar, but all these other 12 sauce facilities are crafting fish sauce. They all have the 1 passive water that they need. They just have to pick up 2 salt and 2 shrimp. And then I have 7 Korean restaurants crafting the kimchi. I've already explained all the other crafts. So they are taking 6 trips to the silos, 4 trips for lettuce heads, and the lettuce heads should all be here on these 2 silos. silos, so they should have easy access to that. And then they have to pick up 2 seaweed. All of the seaweed should be on this silo, so the ones closer to this one have it easier. The ones over here need to walk a little bit more. They also had to pick up 3 items from storehouses: 1 fish sauce, 1 sugar, and 1 rice vinegar. Most of the fish sauce, well, the fish sauce is kind of all over the place, right? They pretty much store it in whichever storehouse is closer. Rice vinegar is stored on that storehouse right there, and actually so is the sugar, so they're making at least 2 trips to this storehouse right here. Now for the sauce facilities making fish sauce, if you noticed right here, I'm also utilizing the subgrid placement like I did with those seaweed farmer houses. So both of these buildings cast 1 shade, and this is casting half a shade on this windmill. This one is casting half a shade on this windmill, but the craft speed is the same, so you can see they're still crafting salt on the fastest craft time. So this is once again another good use of the subgrid placement system to fit in 1 more building without negatively impacting anything else. I have the standard gasoline production setup with 2 water pumps, 2 power plants, a refinery in between them crafting gasoline, and the refinery to the side crafting petroleum. The one crafting petroleum does have passive crude oil from the nearby oil seep, which provides up to 4 passive crude oil. And then this power plant does have enough crude oil to craft energy with in case you needed to craft energy to finish up buildings. This one does not, but that's fine. You should have plenty of energy from this power plant alone. I also have a spot right here in the middle, which can be a dedicated spot for a builder house, since you can't really put anything else there unless it doesn't require a road. And for the gasoline production, I have 1 trade pier on the ocean right here, and the trade time is 20 seconds and 1 gasoline per trade. I do want to talk about the silo placement because it is important. So this silo should only be taking in brine, husk rice, lettuce heads, and seaweed. This silo should only be taking in brine, and this silo should only be taking in sugarcane and lettuce heads. This silo might actually not even be required. You could probably get away with it and just have all the brine going here because the build is very balanced and it is slightly overproducing salt anyways, so you should still get enough salt for 100 per hour. So you could get away with not using this silo right here, but this silo is the one that most of the items are getting into this one and also being used from this one because of the placement of these other buildings. So I have the seaweed close to that silo, which is good for the seaweed production rates, and I also have the shrimp farms close to it, which is also good for the shrimp production rates, because that way the seaweed farmers and the aquaculturists really don't have to walk that much in order to get the items that they need. Same goes for the mixing tents making white rice. As you can see, they just have to make a quick short trip to the silo to get all the husk rice that they need. That's why I really don't need that many mixing tents. And for the lettuce heads and also for the seaweed that are being used by the Korean restaurants, these 2 Korean restaurants can quickly go to the silo and grab everything they need, and these Korean restaurants can quickly go to this silo to grab the lettuce heads. They're still gonna have to walk quite a distance to get the seaweed, but it's also not that far. Here's what auto sell looks like. Kimchi is at 10. All the other items are at 12. I'm not auto selling gasoline. You don't have to. And same thing goes with shrimp because nothing else is going to the seafood warehouse, but you could if you wanted to. You shouldn't have any issues if you do decide to auto sell those 2 items. Here's what the build looks like on the visualizer. Total cost is 18.2 million cash. This doesn't include the amount of cash you will need to set up ice production to get the ice blocks for the seafood warehouse. Wages are at 22,750 per minute. If you are selling 100 kimchi per hour, this will be cash positive, so you will have no issue paying the wages. This visualizer file will have 2 stages. The first stage is what the starting biome looks like, and then the second stage, of course, is the finished design. You can find the file for this visualizer on my Discord server, and an invite link to the Discord is in the description of the video. No NFTs are required to reach this production rate, and one more tip I wanted to share is how to improve improve the seaweed production rates if you are trying to get more seaweed to reach a higher kimchi production rate. This amount of seaweed farms here is good already, but you actually would want one more seaweed farmer house, and this would get your seaweed production rate closer to 800 per hour or 850 per hour. A good spot to add a seaweed farmer house would be here. You don't really use this road that often, so you could get rid of this road and just add a seaweed farmer house there, and that would improve your seaweed production rates, and you have all the shrimp and seaweed that you need to potentially reach 120 kimchi per hour. I would say you're just gonna have to figure out how to get the lettuce heads and fish sauce and sugar for that production rate. But there's an idea. If you wanted to improve this, I do believe it can be improved further, but where it's at right now, it is a competitive design for the competition. Hopefully this gave you a good idea on how to create or improve your current kimchi design. If you found this helpful or informative, please leave a like, leave a comment, consider subscribing if you haven't done so. You can find links on how to support the channel in the description, and as always, I appreciate your support and thank you for watching.